Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unexpected Entrepreneur Podcast. Today we are joined by Bethany, who has been one of our business friends and a mentor and also one of our blogging clients for I feel like a little over 2 years now, just around 2 years. So we've been working with her for a very long time and she is amazing. So we're going to talk all about her blogging experience today. But before we jump into that, do you want to introduce yourself and let everyone know what you do, why you do it, how long you've been in business, everything like that?
Yeah. So, like you said, my name's Bethany. I own a brand and web design agency called Bethany Works. I am also a coach for designers under that same agency. I have a podcast called the Unbreakable Brands podcast. And all of those things in combination serve women and women identifying folks to elevate their visibility in the online space and the brick and mortar space. I am very passionate about helping women be seen and able to make an impact rather than just an imprint through their brand.
I love that. Well, like I said, we've been working for you for probably around 2 years now on your blog. But prior to that, you actually had a decent amount of blog posts, probably more than some of our other clients who we've started working with. So what kind of challenges did you have or kind of see come up prior to working with us when it came to blogging?
Yeah. So I had quite a few because I wanted to use my blog initially as a place to quickly answer questions for folks. I knew a lot about SEO because I had worked in industry, doing SEO for bigger companies. And I was like, don't have the time for that. So my approach initially to blogging was I did want Google to see me as like an active site. So I was like, I'll at
Mhm.
least try for consistency on my own. And then at the time, I was like, I don't have the time to build a robust SEO strategy. So I'm just going to like answer questions to make my life easier. If clients, have a question that they come to me with, like one of them was like, how do I launch my brand afterwards? Or what do I do after I launch my brand? And so that was my approach, was like, I'm going to just write posts so that I can link them at the end when I'm offboarding or like make my life easier. And I think that worked initially and it was good to build up a little bit of a base of posts, but it came to a point where I stopped being consistent because my business continued to grow and scale. I've been in business 6 years now, full time. And so I just was like, dropped it. Like it's the last thing I think about. It's the last thing it's the last thing I do. And even though I know it should be like the first thing I do, considering
Mhm.
that it lasts a hell of a lot longer than anything you put on social media. But I was, busy feeding the other machines. So I just stopped. And that's where you guys came in with your blogging.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the story for a lot of people where they're like, I know I need to blog and like I'm trying to do it, but it always feels like something that in our mind is like, okay, I'll put that on the back burner. I'll get to that when I can. Like it'll be something that I do. I know I need to do it. I'll get to it, but it'll just be sometime. And then sometime never actually comes because there's always a million different things that we have to do in business. So I definitely feel that. I feel like everyone has kind of gotten to that point. But since we've started working with you, we've obviously kept up some of those kind of educational type posts. We've put a lot of educational content out around branding and websites and everything like that. And we've also been able to put out a lot of content that like highlights your portfolio, which is great because as a business owner, it's really hard to have every single project in your portfolio without it feeling overwhelming. And the blog has been a great place for us to be able to show off recent projects that you're done or things that just maybe have outgrown your portfolio or just need to kind of swap it out. So, what have you kind of seen has worked the best for you or has worked well for you, or any results that you've seen from the blog posts that we've been writing for you?
Yeah. Well, I first want to say that I decided to work and hire you guys because I trusted you visually to make sure that you considered that when you're putting together blog posts. And I
Mhm.
trusted you're within the creative space. You obviously know my industry very well, but you know the creative industry very well. And so I have had like, a VA help me out to round out a blog post or whatever when it ended up on the bottom of a list. And it was just like, no offense to anyone who's ever helped me in that realm, but every time it like was not hitting. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, well, now I have to redo it anyways. And so that was a big trust factor, I guess,
Mhm.
in hiring you guys and moving forward. So that was super important. And I know you do that across, beyond the design industry for photographers and other creatives. And so having you guys have that perspective was so essential to write like a human being,
Mhm.
to like the creative space. And then on top of that, I loved the pivot that we made, like you said, focusing on portfolio items. I keep a really curated portfolio because I work in a higher end luxury market for a lot of
Mhm.
my clients. And so when that's the case, typically you have a condensed curated portfolio, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to show off all of the projects that I do. Like some of them are great. And so the blog is a really awesome medium for that and a way to combine so that people can see all the personal brands I've done or, all of the interior designers that I've worked with, like all in
Mhm.
one space. And then also on that same note, have it be curated for exactly what people are searching for under that, niche or whichever piece that I'm serving at the time. And then in terms of results, I will say, which this is a known thing about SEO, it's a long game for sure. I had a little
Mhm.
bit of, presence already. And I would say the last 6 months, so that's like a year and a half in, I've seen very consistent leads directly from Google. Before that, I'd say it took about a year to see a trickle. And that's totally normal and honestly a blip on the radar if you're thinking about anywhere beyond the online space. Let's be real. So now that I see that, it's like worth every penny I would spend on it. Like it's a marketing effort that I will continue to do. And I even have you guys sometimes like refresh once a year to, past posts to make sure that they're staying current and things like that. So it's been an essential part of my growth and also an essential part of being able to sit back and be like, yeah, I know that inquiries are going to come in this month from Google. And I feel pretty great about that. And like, is every single one a dream match? No. But because of how we have like the blog post set up and then also how I have my website set up where I'm clear about my pricing and who I work
Mhm.
with and all of those things, by the time they reach out, like typically 75% are a match because they've, done a little bit of stalking and figured out whether they're aligned or not. So in that way, it's an invaluable resource to my business.
And I think it's really great that you mentioned like once that kind of first year hit, we even noticed ourselves like things started to settle in the rankings. It can take that like between 6 to 12 months, and especially depending on how much work with SEO you've done prior to actually starting to blogging. Like that 6 to 12 months is normally where we start to see things settle in the ranking and start kind of going up a little bit. And just to give everyone an idea, we pulled some of Bethany's stats before we got on this podcast. So right now, 65% of your traffic is coming from organic Google search, which is great. In 2022, when we started, that number was 28%. So, like, that is a huge increase that is getting you and anyone who does this, like, getting you leads that you're not necessarily constantly on social media trying to foster and connect and do all these things. These are the you put the little bit of work in upfront, get the blog posts out there, and now they're still working for you now. I think your number one blog post has between like 400 and 700 clicks a month. And I want to say it's one that we wrote over a year ago. So it's, still working for you. It's still, these posts aren't, the 24-hour cycle that you see on Instagram. It's something that's going to consistently keep growing and building and helping your traffic and attracting those people. And I also think it's really cool what we do with your post as well, because we do a lot of specific types of industries. So we've done, copywriters, and we've done the different, you've had like stylists, and we've done all of these different kind of industries. And it's been really cool because a lot of times when we see portfolio pieces, it'll be a single project, a single, couple that is being photographed or a single copywriting client or whatever it might be. And I think this is a really cool way to kind of group up a bunch of different people, show how the transformation happened for all of them, whether if that's by specific industries or styles that they're in or whatever it might be that you can kind of group them by. It's a good way to kind of see full scale how this can kind of grow and change and do it in a way that's a little bit different than what we're seeing in other places.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I mean, and that's what people are searching for too.
Mm-hmm.
Like in general, not just in my space, but like in my space, people are searching like branding for personal stylists or whatever we
Mm-hmm.
were working on at the time. And so, I happen to have multiple personal stylist clients, so we can put that together. But like that's the case for any search. It's not usually, I think, what maybe people think of first. Like photographers, people aren't searching for like a couple's name or like exact, that's what I see all the time at blog posts is like their name and then like a wedding in New York or something. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that'll do nothing, but like a theme or a style or like a venue or things like that are so much more searchable. And so what I appreciate about what you guys do, which I'm sure you do for all your clients, but for me especially, you wholeheartedly know my brand and who I
Mm-hmm.
serve, and like who I work with on a deep level. And so you come to me with like, okay, we know that, and based on that and on the research we did, here's what our topics that you can pick from for the
Mm-hmm.
next however many months that we're, putting out these posts. And so that's been really helpful for me too.
And I think it's been good growing your SEO in general, because I think sometimes people, we think about blog posts and we're like, okay, the blog post is there, it's great, that might get us traffic, but also having those really solid SEO focused blog posts is also going to boost everything else that is on your website. So it's going to help boost your regular website pages when people search for you. So I know normally you are kind of hovering between 400 to 500% increase between when we started in 2022 and now for your just like general website traffic. And while blogging definitely plays a role in that increase, it's also, just generally your SEO and the confidence that Google has in your brand has built up. So even the rest of your posts have seen little boosts, your normal pages, your portfolio pages, like everything like
Yep.
that all plays together in your overall traffic, where you're being found, what you're being found for, everything like that. So it is important to like see it as one piece of the puzzle, but also understand how it can help all of the different sides of your website and your business and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And now too, as part of like, instead of a focus on, like, I feel like in this space, a lot of folks will focus on social media or email list or like one specific part of an overall marketing funnel for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think you and I hold the belief like of holistically looking at it and then letting like anchor, what I call like anchor content, feed into all of those other pieces. And
Mm-hmm.
so working with you guys do the blog posts of my anchor content. I have the podcast. So I have like pieces of content that are going to feed all the other, platforms that are so short lived. And just having that kind of support is so, so valuable. So it's like beyond what it does for the website, it does so much for me in terms of having a marketing structure too.
Yeah, because let's be honest, no one wants to continually come up with brand new ideas to put on Instagram and TikTok
No.
and fit like wherever anyone is. Like it can get a little exhausting. So these are great blogs. If you do have, I mean, we even use just like our email newsletters sometimes as the long form ones. If you have podcasts, like they're all great ways to kind of break up that content and put new things out consistently, but not necessarily have to feel like you're reinventing the wheel every single time you want to put out an Instagram post or anything like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. There's even like, I can't remember how I did this. You can Google it. But there's like a setup where like when you guys go to publish a post, it automatically creates a draft for me in my in ConvertKit. That's what I use for email
Mm.
marketing. And so then I can go in, edit the draft, link out to the post, and have like regular emails going out. And it happens automatically. Like I literally don't have to do anything. I can't remember how I did it, but like Google it for your platform because that's huge.
That is a major time saver and something that can be
Yeah.
really useful. Is there anything else about blogging with us that has kind of stood out to you, either as something that you've really liked or something that's kind of surprised you over the course of the past 2 years?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think it's not necessarily surprise, but it's like that feeling of like, oh my God, this fucking works when it actually works. And so I think that's such a good feeling.
Hmm.
When those leads like started consistently coming in every month, I was like, oh my God, it actually worked. It paid off. Because it does take a little while. And
Hmm.
so I think that feeling was surprised because maybe I'm like just a little bit cynical. I'm a Capricorn, so there's like always a little bit of doubt in me of like, okay, is this going to work? Yes, of course I know it's going to work, but like when it does, that feeling is so good. Um so I think that part, and then like I mentioned earlier, you guys just having the understanding of people's brands and who they serve and being able to tailor it to
Hmm.
my voice and my community is a skill that like ChatGPT can't replicate. And I just appreciate that so much and that you guys care so much. And we're essentially in the same space offering some of the same services, but we serve like different clientele in
Hmm.
general. There's a little overlap, but I think like that, just your guys' approach to still, still, I guess, not even viewing me as like the competition and like fully putting your heart into like everything you're doing for me.
Hmm.
And I think maybe that would be a fear, I think, going to someone else who was in a similar space, or even like if you guys write for a bunch of photographers, like how do you know that like my blog post is going to be different and like we're not going to be
Hmm.
competing for the same keywords and things like that, but you guys are so organized and so considerate of that and always like putting your clients first, and so it's like never even a concern for me anymore. But I think initially that was like a hurdle mentally for me too.
And I think that's a good point too, because like obviously the two of us are in very similar industries and we do work with a lot of photographers who are, maybe in similar areas or anything like that. And, we have gotten that question before, like how am I going to make sure that like my stuff is different and anything like that. And I think ultimately it comes down to every business is going to have a different set of clients that they're trying to attract and that they're trying to work with. And so we have people who are in almost the same exact towns and we target different keywords. Even if we have a similar keyword, it's targeting a completely different client because that's the type of clients that they work with versus the other one. So I think it is important that there is that kind of separation, but ultimately it's going to come down to understanding who you love to work with, who you want to attract, because your blog posts are just another one of the tools in your marketing belt that it's all going to be based on your ideal client, your brand, who you want to work with. And once you have that kind of understood and in your back pocket, it's really easy to target that in every different, marketing avenue that you use.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, after all this time, how confident do you feel now with all of the new blog posts that we've been putting out and I guess just blogging in general?
Well, really confident that I'll keep working with you guys. Because I don't want to do it. Like, just like I don't want to do it. I have zero interest in doing it. And it's like one of those things, I know you hear this all the time, but like you don't have to do the things you can do. Like just because you can
Hmm.
do it doesn't mean you should do it. And I don't want to do it, and I won't do it. I've proved that to myself multiple times that I will not be consistent on it. Um, so very confident in that. Like I want to continue it as an effort, and I think um it's also something I know you can't just like let drop off either.
Hmm.
um I don't know like the details on why, but I know you can't. So yeah, I'm really confident in everything that it's done for my business as a service provider, where leads are revenue. Like
Hmm.
it's an essential component that I can't give up.
And I think you are a perfect example of what that consistency can actually turn into when it comes to, putting the effort to give it the time to settle and kind of work its magic, because I do think it is one of the longer forms of, marketing and SEO. And I think it can be easy to be, 2 months in and being like, okay, this isn't working, and get discouraged and stop. But I think this is a great example of like, if you just let it do its thing, if you stay consistent with it, it's going to turn around and you're going to see major gains. You're going to see people come to you left and right. You're going to have more inquiries that are aligned with who you actually want to work with. And you're going to feel like you don't have to necessarily work as hard on all of these other platforms to kind of get them to come to you. They're just going to naturally find you. And all of a sudden you'll wake up and you have inquiries in your inbox and you're not even trying.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's a long-term investment for your business, and that's how I view it. Not only is it something off my plate and time back, like that's less important to me than the fact that it's an investment that's going to give an ROI.
Mm-hmm.
And just like with, personal investments, it's not like you put money in the stock market and just like immediately 2 months later, like take it out and make money. Hashtag not a financial advisor, but like, just like you have to have that mindset of you're looking for the long-term gains
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to anything SEO. So I think that's just an important shift to make, that, commit to like 6 months minimum,
Mm-hmm.
ideally a year, before you make any decisions about whether it's working for you or not.
Yeah, absolutely. We 100% agree. And we are so thankful to have you as one of our clients and be able to kind of continue to work with you, and for you coming on today to talk all about this. Thank you so much. If
Oh,
anyone
I'm
wants
thankful for you guys.
if anyone wants to kind of learn more about you and everything that you do, or even read some of the blog posts on your blog, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at bethanyworks.com. So that's where the majority of my blog posts are. You can also find my podcast, Unbreakable Brands podcast, and website. And then I have a few posts on my personal brand site that you guys have also done as well, bethanymccamish.com.
And if you haven't checked out our podcast yet, you should definitely check it out. There is a ton of really great just business advice when it comes to running your business, and some of the hurdles that you have to get over. And you've had some really great guests on there that have talked about a lot of really interesting things. So if you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. But thank you again for coming on with us today, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you for having me.